Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic and the Examiner. With me today, the venerable Ven of Venrez. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. A lot of stuff going on for you guys. How are things in the world of Venrez these days?
Yeah, we're real excited. You know, we have our new album, American Illusion, releasing on July 30th. The first single, Unforeseen, and the music video released on July 18th. And, of course, our fans can go to YouTube and check out Unforeseen, the first single. And we leave in a couple weeks to go do a few shows with Slash. So, you know, we're busy and we're excited.
Nice. So a lot of stuff to talk about then. For those who haven't discovered Venrez yet, give us a little backstory on the project, because I know it sort of happened accidentally, if you will.
Yeah, I really kind of did. You know, I was when I was in my late teens. You know, I had a friend who was a pretty good guitar player, and he had a rich kid friend who had he was a drummer, and he had a rehearsal space, and we got a bassist and started jamming around. And you know, we were young, and they weren't as serious as I was, I guess. And but it sounded really good. It lasted 6 or 7 weeks, and then when it kind of fizzled apart because of lack of interest, primarily on the drummer's part, you know, I just thought that was it, and I just walked away from it. But I always sang, and some of my friends were performers and producers, and they just never really knew I could. And one way of staying in shape was I had a PA, and I'd play an iPod and karaoke and dance for about an hour. And a friend of mine who was a producer had wanted to come over and borrow something from me. I left the door open, and he walked in about halfway through the set. You know, I sensed a presence, and he was very surprised, and you know, continued to bother me to go into a studio and start laying some tracks down, which I just thought it was ridiculous. But you know, thank God I did listen to him, and you know, the next thing I knew, I had a band. We were touring. We were off to Europe on tour about a year later for our first tour, 2010.
And here we are now.
And that's pretty much how it happened. I mean, it was kind of one thing that led to another. I mean, you know, I had a roommate, Tommy Joho Johnson, who's a great singer-songwriter. He had an idea to build a tiki bar out on the patio. We had a pad up there near the Hollywood Hills. And then the next thing I knew, all these guys were there building a tiki bar, but I didn't know that they were talented musicians. One in particular, Jason Womack, who became my partner. He writes all the music and produces the Venrez sound, and I write the lyrics.
Right.
And you know, we just teamed up, and we had a lot of different versions of it before we came up with the current one with Alex Kane and Michael Bradford on bass, Eddie Davis on drums, Jason Womack, and myself. And we've been together 3 years now, and this is our second record. Probably the first record as that cohesive band. You know, that's pretty much how it all happened. Never give up your dreams. You never know what can happen.
Absolutely. So the sophomore album, American Illusion, the one that's coming out later this month, the 30th, really finds you guys sort of building on what you did with the debut album, Sell the Lie. How did you guys approach this album relative to the first album?
Well, with a vengeance. You know, the first album, we had the tunes. We've been playing them. We were on our way to Europe for a tour we'd committed to earlier in the year. Earlier the year before, and it was basically we were very new to each other, and it was a lot of really good players who knew the songs going in to make a record, and you know, 5 tours together now going in to make this album. You know, it's really our first record as a band. It's a natural progression of Venrez. I think it's a little heavier, and you know, I mean, Sell the Lie is a great album. I think the difference is subtle, but I think fans will feel it.
Well, when you approached this album for yourself, what were you looking to do that you hadn't been able to do on the first one?
Well, we wanted to do what we did on the first as far as, you know, recording live and keeping that live sound. So when we tour, you know, our fans see that we bring it live, and I think that's important. You don't want to be a studio band. I think some bands don't deliver live, and I didn't want to be one of them. You know, I wanted to record it in a more relaxed atmosphere. You know, we had the opportunity to get our own gear. So instead of being like locked in a studio from 12 to midnight where you're zombies after 5 or 6 days, sleeping on couches and all that, you know, we kind of recorded over a period of months as opposed to like 2 weeks with Sell the Lie. Just laying tracks down at our own discretion when it was comfortable for us. And so it gave us the ability to record a cohesive band, a progression of the music in a relaxed atmosphere. And I think that really was a blessing and gave us a chance to make what I think is a great record.
It is. It's a great record. I'm enjoying it thoroughly, and it's weird because there's an interesting mix of there's that classic '70s sound. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there. I liken you guys to like a modern day Aerosmith with that sort of laid back rock vibe, a little bluesy feel to it, but there's also that undercurrent of stuff that might have happened in the '90s, little grunge, little Alice in Chains sort of stuff going on there. There's just a whole lot of everything going on in there. But it sounds classic yet modern, and that's hard for a lot of bands to achieve. But more important, it sounds very organic.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, when Jason and I wanted to come up with the Venrez sound, we wanted to create a new genre, which is what I think we did. Jason was really influenced by the Jesus and Mary Chain and the bands that were influenced by them, Tool. But he was born, at a time period where, when he was a baby, his parents were in the 70s. So he also grew up listening to that beat. And the Alice in Chains thing, I don't think we really sound like Alice in Chains. We do have kind of a 90s sound. I think we get compared a lot to that because of the two-part harmonies, which Alice in Chains had going.
Right.
Jason and I have a really, really strong two-part harmonies together. And I do hit some baritone lower notes like Wayne Staley, but probably more Morrison-y than Staley. So we do get some of that. I think if you took, Tool and Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, and the Doors and blended it all up, made it 2013 fresh, or probably something like that.
Yeah, and it's just got a lot of different flavors that all sound familiar, yet it's still uniquely you guys. So. Now, on American Illusion, you already mentioned it. The first video for Unseen is up on YouTube. It's a very powerful video. Yeah. Tell us the tale behind that.
Well, it's the writing process has gotten kind of different. For quite some time, I'd write lyrics, give it to Jason, and he'd put, music to it. And then we switched the process to where he was giving me music and I was writing lyrics to it, which I kind of prefer. I do express myself equally powerfully both ways, but when you're feeling the music, as opposed to just feeling when you're writing, then you're writing words to music, and I think people relate to it in a way. It's just kind of that sixth sense, that kind of hits them. And there's a young female director. Her name is Natalie Biblay. Mm-hmm. My wife, Anna Gershie, is an actress and had been in a film she directed called Windsor Drive, and we'd flown out to Knoxville, Tennessee for the premiere. And when I saw the film, she was just immensely talented. So I gave her the album, and I said, listen to the whole album and tell me what song you really, feel. And it was Unforeseen, which we did want to make the first video. So it was her interpretation of it, and it's a real anti-drug song. We were fooled. I think our society in the late '60s and '70s with drugs and things of that nature, and that it was okay to party and nothing was addictive, and then there was a big crash and burn, and won't play by your rules, got better things to do, kind of thumbing our nose in society, and Reefer Madness is a stupid movie, that kind of a thing. But the fact of the matter is that drugs cause destruction, and so it's a video with a visual of people that really have a lot going for them and what the end result is. That kind of lie of that there's no consequences to our actions. So I think she really hit it right on the head, and I'm real happy with it. It's our first studio video, and I think it's a great first representation video to put out of the band.
It came out really well, and it's, I work it by day because we all have to have day jobs anymore. I work by day in a prison that deals with drug and alcohol addiction programs. So the video really resonated with me because I get to see that sort of destruction every day. And, of course, the other side of it, the destruction that it has on all the people that nobody thinks about, the families, the friends, the community, stuff like that. So
exactly,
really cool.
Exactly.
All of the songs for you are obviously very personal, but are there one or two that really stand out or resonate you perhaps more than the others?
Well, I like to keep, I feel responsibility. We could Jason and I are pretty good songwriters. We could dumb up the lyrics and really get poppy with it and hit radio and make things easier for us financially and so on and so forth. But we have decided not to sell out and keep on going. So, I find it responsible. I have a responsibility to teach lessons and make the public aware of what I have to say, much as what I thought Bob Dylan did, and yet be creative and artistic with some of it and poetic like Jim Morrison did. And I think that in today's world, that's really lacking in rock music. So, when I found out they had supposedly killed bin Laden, I sat down the next day and wrote Intellectual Drool, which is another shot at, money and greed and corporate American government lying to us. And then Sanctity, which is the second single. Christopher Coppola, Nick Cage's brother, directed the video. It's in editing. That'll drop in August. And Sanctity is pretty much kind of like V for Vendetta, the film, Natalie Portman.
Right.
Where he says, government should not control the people. People should control their government. And I think, that movie is slowly coming true with our country. And that song, Sanctity, was pretty much a wake-up call to that. And then, of course, to the cover of The Beat Goes On, which is a real fun song, going, from there. And then Vultures, which was one of my science fiction songs, along with Temptress of the Moon. I was very taken aback by the movie 300, and that time period, and thinking about, having your arm chopped off, gutted with a sword, and how horrible that is. Not that it's less horrible than napalm and Agent Orange and everything else, and atomic bombs, what we have today with tremendous destruction that we can do. But I wrote Vultures about that time period where, literally they would inspect the male babies and throw them over a cliff if they saw a flaw in them, born to fight or die. The sort of truth never lies, which is a line in that. So those are some of my favorite tracks. The Beat Goes On. It was a big hit. Sonny Bono wrote it, Sonny and Cher song, and it's probably the most alternative rock track we've ever recorded. And I think it's kind of a cool track. I
was going to sort of ask why you picked that one of all the things you might have covered.
Well, we tried to cover, there was a big movie coming out. We covered Can't Find My Way Home on the first album. The director didn't really like that. He wanted something rockier. And, Jason had always had this concept of The Beat Goes On. We didn't get a song on a soundtrack, but we recorded that way before we recorded the album to try to get on a soundtrack because of the timing of it. But I love it, and I think it's got a shot to be one of the great new strip bar singles of all time.
Now, coming up later this month, you mentioned it earlier on, you're going to be doing some stuff with Slash. I believe one of them's not too far from me down in Utah there at Park City, but tell us about the connection with Slash and what's going on there.
Well, that was, we got real lucky. We were booked for months to go out with the great Steven Adler. We had done a show with him a couple years ago when he had the Adler's Appetite project out here in L.A. It was very successful. And we were supposed to go out and do 24 shows in a row with him in July. In fact, I should have been on stage July 3rd and 4th. I should be on stage tonight.
And then he decided to go back into rehab.
Yeah, well, he evidently had some personal issues. And God bless him. We wish him the best. He's a great guy, a great musician, but the entire tour for the rest of the year got canceled. And as you know, we were supposed to release our record on July 2nd, and we started scrambling. But Bob Chiappardi, our wonderful manager, Concrete Planet New York, was able to get us on the last 3 shows of the Slash tour with Slash and Hillbilly Harold. And, we'll be playing in St. Louis on July 21st, and then, of course, in Salt Lake on the 24th, and then the House of Blues in Vegas on the 25th. So we were able to release the album in July. Just instead of the 2nd, it got kicked back to the 30th. But, we're back on track, but certainly we had hoped to release earlier in the month and be touring more a lot. But we'll be touring a whole lot the rest of the year. And I'm really looking forward to Park City and Vegas. We pretty much, other than the LA club scene where we test out our stuff, and we have a lot of local fans. We've really never toured west of the Mississippi, so now we have it's all been primarily East Coast and Midwest in the United States, with Alice Cooper last summer and Fuel in January, February of 2012. So I'm very excited about playing in Utah, and I'm really excited about getting to play in Vegas, the city of decadence.
Well, it's interesting. Listening to a band on CD or seeing a video of them is never the same as it is seeing them live. Live is always the greatest experience. What can fans expect when they see Venrez perform live?
I think we're just a really big, loud, we're a big sounding rock band that goes on feel, like the Stones and very much like Aerosmith. As contrasted to a really big, great band like U2 or Muse. Muse even more so, and Franz Ferdinand, where they're so good and it just sounds like the record, which is good. Don't get me wrong; these guys are brilliant. But we go on feel, so every show is going to be a little different depending on how the band feels, how the energy's going, and how the crowd's going. And so, although we do sound great live, we're not going to sound exactly like the record. We're going to sound close. And each show is going to be a little bit different. I might sing some of the songs a little bit differently, and I never know what's going to happen. I mean, you just, if the band starts feeling something, they can cut into a different interlude, and sometimes I just don't even know where they are. But it's kind of crazy. But that's the greatest thing about it, because we're real. There's no choreography or any of that going on. What you see is real from A to Z. Every show, and I think that our fans appreciate that and know that.
Well, hopefully you'll get a chance to get up to my neck of the woods at some point, because I really want to check you guys out live. But before we get out of here, just for fun, the pointless question of the week. What current pop fad trend person would you eradicate immediately if you could?
Justin Bieber, even though I accolade him for his talent, but to me, he's the epitome of the lie that's being sold to America's children on radio. And he is talented. Don't get me wrong, but that's not real music.
I cannot disagree.
But that's pretty much it. I mean, he's just I'm outraged by it. But you know what? Our greatest fan base is 13 to 17, and on Facebook, we have 340 some odd thousand likes. And I can go in and look at the profiles of new likes and such, and I'm sitting here just looking at hundreds of these 13 to 17-year-old kids around the world, and they've got my picture there, and they like me, and then they got One Direction and Justin Bieber and that kind of stuff. And so it's really kind of a sort of cuts both ways, that a lot of our fans that really like us also like him. And that's what makes me say that, he is a great artist. He's just a part of American radio basically shutting down. It's not like Richie Valens and La Bamba, where you're driving down the street and banging your singles on the radio and, you get somewhere. And if they hear something good that they play it, they don't. If you sent them any of the Rolling Stones' top 10 hits from day one through today and wipe the Stones' memory from everybody's mind, they wouldn't play any of it. They wouldn't play any of Aerosmith's hits. They probably wouldn't even play any of Guns N' Roses' hits, simply because today radio plays hits. They do not help make hits, and that's what I have the biggest problem with.
Well, the bright side, though, to that, if you can go and you can see them having you and Bieber and the Menages and all that stuff on the same page, is, at the end of the day, the organic, the true rock and roll, the true music that really resonates is going to be what they still continue to grow up with and listen to. And the Biebers and the One Directions are all just going to go by the wayside eventually. There's always those things.
Mm-hmm.
But true music lasts. It's timeless. So
I just don't like what they do with the gift.
True.
I mean, there's a lot of talented people out there that never get that opportunity. Driving around with all your bros and, driving around your fancy cars and, getting beat up by fans and acting like, a general fool is not responsible to the art. I didn't see Bob Dylan doing that. I don't see Steve Tyler doing that. I don't see Mick Jagger doing that. I don't see Rod Stewart, David Bowie, Alice Cooper, any of them doing it. And I don't think it sends a very good message. It's a profession, and it's a real hard profession. And a lot of us have to work really hard of it. Just get on a tour bus for 6 weeks and do 40 shows in a row and tell me if you think that's glamorous.
Right.
It's really hard work. And so that irritates me to no end, to be so irresponsible with the talent. And if you look at the Beatles and the Stones, who made it when they were basically very young as well, you really don't see that type of irresponsibility.
No, it's totally different now, and it's sort of funny. You mentioned Bob Dylan a couple times, and ironically, in today's music climate, where things are picked by American Idol and America's Got Talent and The Voice, Bob Dylan wouldn't even have made the cut for those shows just to get on as a contestant.
No, I mean, it's all pop, and I welcome, and I mean that's where it's at. We've been offered to be on a few of those shows, which I refuse. I'm not going to make a mockery of it. I don't think any of my songs are going to be making car commercials or beer commercials anytime soon. And I really don't want them to, but I just think there's a tremendous lack of responsibility in rock music today, and I might have an easier path, if I went in that direction, but I'm not, and I'll do it as long as the fans allow me to, because like some artists do, they forget that they have no career without the fans. There's no autograph I won't sign. There's no fan who really wants to meet me I won't meet. If you have to earn your fans one at a time, today you start from the ground up. I'm on Facebook hours and hours, and oh my God, I can't believe you're chatting with me. And I'm just like, I couldn't have that experience growing up with David Bowie or Steve Tyler or any of these guys that I admired, or even Kurt Cobain or Eddie Vedder. And so, I'm trying to affect some change and let the people know that we appreciate them, understand we have no careers, there is no rock music without the fans, and treat them with respect. And I'm not quite sure the fans have been treated with the respect that they deserve.
Right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Venrez, the second album, American Illusion, out on July 30th. Got a few tour dates coming up with Slash, and obviously on the websites, we'll see the upcoming tour dates above and beyond all that as they are laid out. I really appreciate you taking the time. The album is great, and I hope for big things from you guys.
Thank you. Let me just plug the website. We pronounce it Venrez, but it is spelled Venrez, and we don't mind if you say it that way. But it's www.venrez, Venrez, theband.com. And you can go there and actually pre-order the album right now. We got great merch, see our tours and video schedules and videos. Venrez, theband.com. And on Facebook, Venrez. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And pronounce Venrez then. I've been saying it wrong, and now I feel like a fool, but that's okay. No,
it isn't.
Now I'll know for the
Stephen
future.
Berez. So,
right.
The concoction of both, but, we pronounce it both ways, and we like it that way.
Well, I appreciate it. You have a great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you out on the road.